Today's guest is Andy Miller, the advertising strategist turned co-founder and CEO of Heaps Normal. From a kid dreaming of becoming Inspector Gadget, or maybe a doctor, to launching one of Australia's most talked about non-alcoholic beer brands. Andy's path is anything but conventional. After stints in advertising, music, festivals and Young Henrys, he co-founded Heaps Normal with a simple but rebellious mission: help people cut back on alcohol without preaching sobriety. Since launching in the depths of COVID, the brand has shaken up the drinking scene with its playful attitude, purposeful positioning, and a product that actually tastes like beer. In this episode, Andy shares how his background in strategy shaped the brand and how purpose was baked in from day one, and what it really means to build a business from instinct and not spreadsheets. This is The Mucky Middle. Thanks so much for joining us in The Mucky Middle.
It's a pleasure.
So I guess I always ask, before we go into kind of Heaps Normal and all the wonderful things that you're doing, I always like to ask kind of the first question of like, what was it that you wanted to be when you were a kid?
I wanted to be Inspector Gadget, but
Makes sense.
yeah, seeing as that was probably not a well-trodden career path for many people, the other thing I wanted to be for most of my life was a doctor.
Interesting. And how did young Dr. Andy then get to where you are today?
Well, I didn't study very much at school and played a lot of sport, particularly water polo. And so my dreams of studying medicine at the end of high school were cut a little bit short. I went and studied health instead for a little while, and then discovered creative industries.
Yep.
And just thought that sounded like a really amazing, exciting career path for me and not something that I'd previously considered. So I went down that path and ended up working for creative agencies, some music companies, festivals. It took me overseas to China and then came back and I worked in beer. Worked in craft beer for a short time, and then started Heaps Normal, and it sort of all felt very kind of natural coming together, and in a weird way kind of linked me back to that original drive to be a doctor and to help people or to contribute something positive to the world. It was always sort of something that was inside me around, driving me forward. So I think Heaps Normal has sort of been able to combine, the creative experience that I had with, that itch that I had as a kid.
Amazing. And do you come from like an entrepreneurial family, or like where'd you grow up? Like was there early sort of seeds of that you would then become building your own business? I
think my parents are very creative people. They don't see themselves that way though, I don't think. And it was actually when I was about 19 and I was traveling around the world in my pajamas. I got home and my mum just looked at me and said, "I don't know where you get this stuff from. You've got such conservative parents." So maybe it was because of that sort of sparked something in me.
Interesting. And so talk us a little bit about Heaps Normal. Like what was it that made you want to sort of throw your life behind it?
Well, Heaps Normal is a non-alcoholic beer company, but we've never preached sobriety, and that was something that really set us apart from the very beginning. We've evolved our positioning since then, and there's been more elements to the brand that have come into it as the categories evolved and as consumers have evolved as well. But that was something that we just noticed for ourselves, that we wanted to reduce our alcohol consumption at different times. But we didn't necessarily see being sober as the end goal or necessarily identify with that ourselves. We didn't necessarily need the label. Yeah, so the other part of the question was what brought me to Heaps Normal? Well,
yeah, like what was it that, made you want to throw your life behind it as well?
Yeah, I think for me it was really early on. I just had a moment where I sat back and realized that I was questioning how the heck did I get here? Because there were a lot of things going right for us. We seemed to be getting some momentum at the time, and it felt really good. And sitting back and sort of thinking, I didn't imagine myself starting a non-alcoholic beer company when I was younger. What happened? And it was, I think, strangely, a lot of very disconnected moments in my career and jobs that I'd taken and places that I'd gone, all felt like they were in service of me starting this business and doing this job that I'm doing right now. So that was a nice feeling. I think I can go deeper on that if you like.
Please. Yeah.
I think, understanding how to build communities, what motivates people, what motivates me, what gives me purpose and what makes me feel fulfilled. Some of the answers to those questions are, being creative, being surrounded by creative people, being able to play in my work and also feel like I'm having a net positive impact on the world.
Yeah.
I think there were, without going down all of the examples, there were a long list of business ideas and, things that I either started or thought about starting over the years. But a lot of the time, I ended up killing them off because, it was just another T-shirt company or it was just another this or that. And it didn't really feel like it had a point of difference in the world or something unique to offer or a new take, or it was just creating more stuff. And I just couldn't bring myself to follow through with that. So, it finally felt like, we landed on the right idea.
Yeah. And because you have a business partner, I guess, had you worked together prior or?
Yeah. I started it with two friends, Pete and Ben, and Geordie actually as well, who's a pro surfer. Yeah, Ben and I worked together at Young Henry's in Newtown. We met there.
Oscar's been on the show too.
Right, yeah. He's a lovely human. And so we met at Young Henry's. We left at different times, but we stayed in touch. And then when Pete and I got talking, and he wanted to do something in non-alcoholic beer, but wasn't sure where to start. And so the first thing I did was call Ben and say, "Hey mate, can we put a recipe together for a non-alcoholic beer?" Which hadn't really been done with much success at that time.
Yeah, and I guess there's a lot of. I guess everything is about timing as well, because it feels like you guys were really the first, or at least me personally, it was the first non-alc beer that I tasted that was delicious and was an equivalent of an alcoholic beer. It would always, I think the other ones that I'd tried sort of felt like they were lacking somehow. That's not blowing smoke, but it was a really. It felt like you hit the market and kind of almost reframed what non-alc should taste like.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say. I think. Well, I mean, we were shitting our pants when we launched because it was still the middle of COVID. It was an unknown beer brand. It was a summer beer style in winter. And it was non-alcoholic, and people were at that point like, what's the point? So it was a really scary time to start a business, and I think if anything, that just made us, go really hard.
Yeah. And thinking back at those decisions now in hindsight, was there, what made you go, it's worth it, we're going to throw everything at this?
I think it was, more than anything, it was something that we felt was fulfilling and fun and exciting and enjoyable. And we thought that there were probably other people out there like us.
Yeah.
So, it's that sort of cliched thing of having a personal connection to the problem. But I think it really does, it keeps you there and working at it when shit gets really hard or you're having a really bad day.
Yeah.
So, that's sort of...
But it was much more instinctual in terms of, it's not like you were doing massive qual surveys or, testing, like a PepsiCo or something would do to go, how are we going to spend 3 years formulating this product? You were much more instinctual and kind of, we're certain that there are people like us that are going to enjoy this just like we do.
Yeah, definitely. It was much more of a kind of gut feel. I think investors like you to call it vision. It was, we had a vision, it was really just gut feeling and then working out how to respond in a kind of nimble way that didn't, get us bogged down in all of this, data that was, only sort of semi-useful or all of these processes to try and prove something when actually what we needed to do was move really quickly.
Was there a sense that this opportunity was momentary in kind of that it hadn't yet been done properly, but at some point someone would figure it out?
Yeah, I don't think we realized just how much that was the case at the time.
Yeah.
I think we had a sense that, we needed to move quickly and that there were probably other people working on things. But in retrospect, if we'd have launched, I think, even 6 months later than we did, might have been a different result.
Yeah, interesting. Amazing. And then, tell us about what happened. Like what happened after launch?
So we made about 500 cases, which sounded like a huge amount of beer to us at that time. And we initially just packaged those in blank cans, and we wanted to use them to get some feedback from bartenders, sommeliers, friends in the industry who we trusted. And we gave it to them, and 9 out of 10 of them, we didn't tell them it was non-alcoholic beer. We just said, here's a new beer. What do you think? And 9 out of 10 of them said, yeah, I love it. And when we asked them what, how much alcohol they thought was in there, they guessed 3 to 4%. So it was that moment when we kind of knew that we were onto something. There was something going right about the product, and we used all the rest of those cans to pre-sell to our first round of customers. And then at that time, though, it was we were literally, I was in Canberra, Ben and Pete were in Sydney, and we were all walking up to, working the phones in the morning and calling all these, our favorite bars around the country and restaurants, and having a chat to them about what we were doing and seeing if they wanted to try it. Then I'd walk up to the local post office in Curtin in Canberra and put a few cans in a post box with a little postcard, handwritten, wrap it in today's newspaper, and then ship it off. And then 2 weeks later, call them on the phone and say, hey, did you get those beers? What did you think? And then, would you like to put it in the fridge?
Awesome. Love it. And so obviously people said, yes, I would like this in the fridge. And is that how you kind of financed the initial stages, that it was kind of pre-sales?
Yeah, Geordie gave us a little bit of money to get going. Yeah. We all put in a little bit as well. Yeah. And it wasn't much though. It didn't get us very far. Maybe just that first batch. We pre-sold that. That did kind of help, but beer is a really cash-intensive business. So and it's usually 60 days before you see the money that goes out coming back into the business. So cash flow is really challenging in our business, and certainly was at that time. We got an innovation grant from the Canberra Innovation Hub, which was a massive help for us in that early stage. And then we also got a little bit of funding from StartMate. Yep. We went through their, at that time, tech accelerator.
Interesting.
And I think they've since sort of branched out and done a lot more consumer product goods. Yeah, at that stage, I think the audience was really kind of polarized around, the judges were really polarized around
how do I judge this?
whether a non-alcoholic beer company was really the right thing for StartMate. But we got so much out of it, so I'm really grateful for the for the people that sort of invited us into that program. Yeah,
that's really cool. And then tell us about, I guess, the Heaps Normal brand is very distinctive in its own right, and how much of that, when did that story sort of start?
Yeah, the brand was a really big part of it from the very beginning. We knew we didn't want to take ourselves too seriously. We didn't, we thought that the category was a little bit too earnest and serious, and we just thought if you really want to change people's behavior, you can't tell them, to stop drinking, or that this is the right amount to drink. It's got to be fun. It's we wanted to throw a party and just make it feel normal. And the irony for us at that point was that there was absolutely nothing normal about non-alcoholic beer. So we just thought we'd lean into that and have a bit of fun with it.
Yeah, awesome. Embrace that kind of Achilles heel element.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the other important component for us was, building a business around the brand where purpose was really embedded in what we were doing and not just an afterthought. So it's not something we talk about all the time, but I think we probably should. So I'll share it now. Yeah, we created a model where we donate 2% of all revenue, and we did that we've done that since the very first can that we sold. Yeah. And I mean, I think people these days are probably sick of hearing about all of these altruistic initiatives from different brands. We're really conscious of that, and I think that's sort of one of the reasons why I think we just think we say internally we think it should be normal, not noble. Like it should just be one of these things that is given, and I think all consumers just expect that businesses will be doing this these days. It's not. Yeah. It's not always the case.
Unfortunately, not true. But yeah, it's interesting, and particularly in this current political climate, what the role of business is to sort of help, I guess, be a powerful force of good in the face of, the deterioration of some of the elements of our society. How do you feel that as a business owner? Like, what do you feel your role is?
It's a really good question, and I've thought about it a lot. I don't know if I've really come to, the answer yet, but for whatever my opinion is worth on that, I think I heard something recently, somebody, I think maybe it was just some, voice on social media, but, somebody was claiming that corporations shouldn't be political. And there was a part of me that agreed with that, but then I sat back and thought about it, and I thought, well, actually the reality is that corporations have always been political. Not all corporations have always been political.
Maybe not openly.
Openly, yeah, but I think there's always been that dynamic. We work really hard to try and certainly not be political. We don't want to carry too much of a politically charged message because we don't see that as our role as Heaps Normal. Personally, it's a different story, but I think that's been really difficult in the last few years because there have been so many issues that we feel are just critical at a critical stage, and something needs to be done. Taking climate change as a massive, obvious, unavoidable example that I don't think anyone would disagree with at this point. So yeah, and I think when those issues become politicized, it makes it really difficult.
Yeah. I mean, they should be normalized, not politicized.
Totally. Yeah.
And do you focus your 2% on a particular cause? Is it around mental health? What is it sort of your focus?
We're 1% for the planet certified, so that's 1%, and we've tended to rotate through different organisations, all that speak to us and speak to what we are really interested in and what we do in our personal lives that makes those relationships authentic. And the other 1% was something that we sort of volunteered to tack on to that, which we called 1% for the people, which is more focused on social causes, again, we've rotated through different causes. One of the more recent ones that we've donated to has been Support Act, who are a music charity that support musicians and crew, music industry people, through into retirement and with psychology services, and it's a really amazing organisation.
Very cool. And tell me about the kind of the B Corp. Like, when did that come in? It feels like purpose has always been kind of core to the business from the ground up, but when did that sort of become a thing that you really wanted to focus on?
Day one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we unfortunately, or probably for good reason, but unfortunately for us, we realised you have to wait 2 years until you can even submit your application for B Corp. So we just started really early, and it took us that whole 2 years to really get ready, which is
it took us 3 years.
It's a big amount of work. So I started it, and then Nancy, our chief of staff, finished it. She did 80% of the work, I think, in that time, because it was almost like this moving goal line because as we were growing as a business, the requirements for certification kept changing. So we at some points we felt like we would never get there, but it was something that was really important to us. So we built the business around the B Corp certification from the very beginning.
Yeah, awesome. And describe your role. Like you wear quite a few hats, don't you? In terms of like how do you sort of manage your day to day? What's your role?
I feel like I've done almost every job in the business, which I guess is normal. You know, when it's when you start the business, I think we all in the early days wore a lot of hats, and we did a lot. All of us did a lot of different jobs throughout the business, and I really enjoyed that. And I think it was a great way to learn how our business operates, and then also be able to support our team effectively, and not be one of these people that's just totally out of touch with what's required to fulfill a particular role. So I felt like that's been a real advantage. These days, I try as much as possible just to wear the one kind of CEO hat, but and get out of the way of other really incredibly talented people that we are lucky to have in our team. But my background is in brand strategy, and having created the brand strategy for Heaps Normal, it's something that is really close to my heart. So sometimes it's hard to let go. I'll be honest, but
I feel you.
But yeah, I think like these days as well, I think we've got such a great team. I find it more inspiring to have other incredible minds to bounce off than any kind of threat or concern.
And how do you find? I mean, because you haven't been in like a business role previously, how did you find kind of like the running of a business because you would have had to get up to speed on lots of those elements that you might not have actually sort of been aware of or been involved in previously. How did you find that? I
think it's been an interesting challenge, and I've learned so much over the last 4.5 years. I think, definitely some of my previous roles helped to prepare me for this job and starting a business. Being really fortunate to be in the room, helping to make decisions and discuss, some of the, week-to-week business challenges in other incredible businesses like Young Henry's was really kind of formative for me. Yeah, I think, without sort of working in Young Henry's and other small businesses that I worked in at different points in my career, it would have been really difficult because I think, coming from agency, sometimes you have like quite a, certainly as a strategist, I'll go there. I think can be quite a theoretical view of the world. As I say that, I'm aware that there are so many great strategists out there where it's absolutely not theoretical. And, so yeah, maybe that was just my experience.
No, and I think there is a big difference of, you're playing with your money and your resources, and there's, I think, a lot at stake there as well of making those decisions and making sure everything counts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, even, Geordie's money or, whoever's money it is or other people that have backed us along the way, we take it really seriously and, we, our tagline that we, use to remind ourselves of, why we're here is too good to be wasted. And, that applies, whether it's to do with, the environment, to do with, resources in the business or, anything else. So we definitely, that we apply that to everything we do.
Do you find your background in advertising actually helps you create like a very single-minded vision and strategy for a business? Often you go into businesses and you're trying to help them shape from the outside in, and, maybe it's a legacy business and you're trying to reshape them for a new application in the future or whatever it might be. But here you are building something from the ground up, sort of from first principles, but you have that sort of background and clarity. Do you think that sort of gave you a little bit of an advantage in that way? Yeah,
I think having that opportunity to work in strategy and and even not, need to manage anyone during that time. Just focus on developing that skill and improving on how I write strategy was crucial to Heaps Normal.
Yeah.
I think though, I think people sort of look at strategy and sometimes the beautiful simplicity with which it's communicated and try to. I think, and me as well. I still get frustrated with myself when trying to work through the messy kind of process of getting to that point. I think it's easy to look at that end point and think, I just need to get there.
Yeah. But how you get there is
it's really I find it. I still, every time I go through that process, and particularly with other people, because it sometimes makes you second guess yourself a little bit, or I think I always am reminded of the need to trust the process, and when you're in the thick of it and it feels like you're not going anywhere, almost every time we've pushed through, we've gotten to a really great result, and things have gradually kind of come together. So yeah,
awesome. And then so scaling up, you're bringing on new employees, you're moving into new markets. Is there kind of a secret sauce to the sort of the people that you like to find and surround yourself with?
That's something that we're continuing to learn lots about all the time. I think we're getting better and better at identifying what who our people are. I think back in the days of being a smaller team, it was probably easier because we spent so much time thinking about that, and now we're a team of 26, and there's lots of different people making those decisions. So I think it's a challenge, I think, to try and codify what is it in your head. How do you make those gut calls, and how do you share how those decisions are made with other leaders in your team?
That? Yeah, we're going through that process too. And it's never ending. It's like, that was a bad decision. Okay, well, let's learn from that and figure out how we actually make sure that, moving forwards, we're sort of always looking for those sorts of personality traits, but also looking for diversity and really interesting minds to sort of crack different problems, because you also don't want to have a group of 30 nicks. That would be a disaster. So, have an interesting mix of people.
Definitely. I think the interesting thing that I've noticed is that it's a real balance between wanting people who you can have a shorthand with, but who think differently to you and who have a different life experience to you. Because I think just having a room full of people who are intensely different is going to make your life really difficult. So I think there needs to be some glue there that sort of pulls people together.
Yeah, some kind of shorthand.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And so tell me about the US expansion. How is that sort of changing things, and what's happening there? Yeah,
it's really exciting. We've just launched in the US in January, and we're very focused in Northern California, just having a meaningful impact in that very focused, targeted geo. But yeah, we've had some really amazing traction so far. We've got we're in at this stage about 50 Whole Food stores across California and Hawaii as well. And yeah, there seems to be a really great opportunity in the US for our product and our brand. And it's a really exciting market. It's still, I think, one of the most important cultural markets in the world. And yeah, it's just fun to be there.
So you've been going back and forth?
I've been over once, and yeah, our team's been over several times. So yeah, we've got a steady stream of people heading over to the US. But
no permanent boots on the ground yet?
Not yet, but that's definitely in our plan.
On the cards. Yeah, interesting. So, and do you brew over there for local markets, or are you currently importing, exporting?
We're sending our product from Australia over to the US at this stage, but
until you scale up.
I think we don't like the idea of shipping water on water. No. So we're looking to, as soon as possible, start producing locally as well.
Yeah, cool. I guess that's a good segue into, what are the things that you find tricky? Obviously, you've got a very clear purpose and built from the ground up. But, we're talking about the Mucky Middle, finding our way through to sort of that better outcome. Sometimes we do have to make compromises. Can you kind of talk to me about that and sort of how you how you work through that?
Oh, there's been so many, I think, along the way. In particular, I think when it's something that there's so much of you in it, it's sometimes difficult to see things from a different perspective in the moment. And we went through, I think, like the rest of the industry, some challenging times for the business. And fortunately, we've come out the other side of that, and things are going really well. But in that moment, it was really stressful, and we felt like we wouldn't be able to build this hospitality venue and brewery that we'd been planning for so long. And a lot of people in our corner as well were sort of a little bit uneasy about the idea of embarking on a construction project, essentially, which they always go out over budget and over time. And at that stage, it was pretty scary, to consider that possibility. And it was a real, to use the Amazon term, like a one-way door, right? Like you go through that door, you're not coming back. It either works or it doesn't. So that was a really, we didn't build it at that point. We hit pause. We took the advice in the end, but that was hard to take, and it was a hard pill to swallow. And I think, I'm not too proud to say that as opposed to that decision as I was at the time. Looking back on it now, I think we're in a better position.
Yeah.
And even the venue and the brewery that we're building is going to be much more suited to our business. It's going to be much, much better for us. And we wouldn't have arrived at that if we didn't go through that really difficult decision. And there are a few other really fortunate things for the business that happened off the back of that very painful decision. I think without being too philosophical about it, there's a story that I would highly recommend anyone that sort of resonates with looking up. It's the Stallion story, and it's about a farmer who he's very sage, and he sort of chooses not to see things as inherently good or bad. And I shared this story with our team recently, through our own lens, with some of the things that we've been through over the last few years, just to illustrate, I think, the power of that message, because there are so many things that you can look at and think that is awful, like that is so bad for us, so bad for me, or but yes, this is amazing, like things couldn't be better, and it's important to celebrate, obviously, but I think it's all really a matter of perspective, is what I've learned in this process. And you can choose to see the opportunity in something bad, even something where it's so bad it's really difficult to see that in the moment. You never know, what's going to come from it.
Yeah, seeing the nuance in every situation is often hard when you're been smacked in the face with it or something. But afterwards, it's sometimes a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think and I think with practice, I'm getting better at that. It's not something that happens overnight. No,
I mean, I've been doing this for 14 years and still struggles with it. But yeah, and I think nuance is, it feels like we're in a very continually polarized world of black and white, and we need to look at all situations with much more nuance. I guess tell me a little bit more about the actual sort of the mindful drinking movement and kind of how you see that sort of continuing to gather steam and I guess consumers sort of where they're sort of coming to you at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I think the kind of central part of that movement is young people. They're drinking less than any other generation previous to them, and so that's really interesting. I don't think there's anyone has a complete understanding of how that's going to play out. It's such an interesting generation, particularly with the impact of COVID on that generation, which is so different. Created such a different experience to lots of other generations. And yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think this idea of, being more conscious of your health, but I think more importantly for me, just being more conscious of what you really want, what trade-offs you're making in your lifestyle, not just with alcohol. I think that's definitely something that I've been reflecting on a lot. Whether it's how do I structure my time more to prioritize the parts of my job that I'm good at and that energize me versus the things that drain me. And, how do I spend more time with my kids? And, how do I do these things that are inherently fulfilling for me? And how do I do the other fun stuff as well? Like, how do I go out to, gigs? How do I go out and party, but how do I balance all of those things with these other things? That's what the whole mindful drinking movement means to me. It's not just about drinking. It's just, I think people are inherently a little bit more or they're tuning in more to what they really want. And I think that's just such a positive thing, whether it's about alcohol or not.
So designing the business is also kind of about designing a whole life for yourself as well in many ways. I mean, as CEO, as a father, as a partner and all that sort of thing.
For me it is, yeah. But we're really conscious not to try and make that, about everyone else. Like we just...
everyone's got their own path.
Absolutely. And we see our, role with Heaps Normal just as helping people feel more joy about the decisions that they've made. I think feeling regret is like the biggest waste of energy. So how do we celebrate making good decisions or just making decisions that feel right in the moment? Because I think you can tie yourself in knots trying to think about, whether something is the best decision you can possibly make and will endure as the best decision ever. Not many decisions I've ever made have endured as, holding such a high status.
What do you think it is about this new movement? Yeah, what is driving decisions to, is it about to have more control and to maybe make decisions that they're potentially going to regret? Are there interesting sort of behaviors that you're seeing in kind of the consumption of Heaps Normal that you find sort of reflective of that?
Yeah, I think an interesting story that we heard recently from a friend of ours, he said, I'm going to all these parties and I noticed something really interesting, that Heaps Normal is everyone's first beer. And I asked him to say more just to understand what's going on there. And he said, well, you turn up at these parties, sometimes they're work events or whatever, and there's an esky full of beers, all different kinds of beers and other drinks as well. And, often there's some Heaps Normal in there. And he said, and I noticed, I look around the room and I watch everyone, come in and they open the esky and the first beer they take is a Heaps Normal. And he said, I think what's going on is that people turn up to these social situations and they're not sure whether, what the vibe is. Is this something where I need to be, really sharp? My boss is going to be watching me, or I'm surrounded by colleagues, and I don't want to kind of lose my head, or is this a safe environment, where I'm surrounded by like-minded people and, friends, and I can kind of blow a bit of steam off. Yeah. And people are kind of waiting to see how the room kind of evolves as people arrive before they decide which path they're going to take, whether they're going to partake in alcohol or have a few drinks, or what part of themselves is going to show up. So I think that was super interesting to me. And I think the other dynamic here is that we're all living in a world where everything is recorded.
Yeah.
So there's very few moments where I think you can sort of get away with being a bit silly.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I thought must be, because when we went to uni, no one had cameras on their phones, and everything is kind of being surveilled now and captured and then put up online to potentially problematic effect. And I was wondering if that was part of it. That's really interesting that they're utilizing, because often that first beer is also the one that you really down quite quickly, because maybe there's a bit of nervous energy, you're not, again, so it could be quite an interesting way to sort of just really curtail that a little bit and slow your roll a little bit as well.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, interesting. Are there other interesting drinking habits that you've noticed with consumers? Like, are they mixing it up? Like, they might, every second beer, they might switch out to a Heaps Normal, or is there other things do you have them as like different character types and sort of personas, that kind of thing?
There's so many different ways that people are incorporating into their lifestyle. So, obviously mixing it up, with alcoholic beverages. Don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but
we can cut it afterwards if it's inappropriate.
There's a bunch of our friends who like to use weed, tell us that they drink Heaps Normal.
Yeah, interesting.
When they're doing that, because there's no alcohol to interfere with other things. And I think that sort of also made us realize that there's no alcohol to interfere with anything else, even if it's something, prescription, that you need to take. So that was an interesting reflection for us.
Is that a big push of California as well?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of people. I mean, obviously people would be familiar probably with the term California sober. So that's a big thing over there, and something that we noticed as quite a significant change from when I was there 10 years ago or so.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the biggest change, I think, in the last few years that I've seen has been people using Heaps Normal alongside other alcohol products. Like I think that's to varying, levels. And I think that, like, I love seeing that, because, I think that's how we achieve culture change, by normalizing it. Like it's not by saying this is the only way to use this product or that product, or this is the only solution. And if you're not doing that, then you're not serious. Yeah. That really excites me to see that.
Where do you want the business to sort of, like, what's your long-term vision or goal of, like, what will make you extremely happy looking back in sort of 10 years from now as to where the business is at?
It's a big question. Obviously thought a lot about it. I think just doing what we're doing. It sounds like a cop-out, but I think doing what we're doing, I get such a sense of fulfillment from just simply seeing people enjoying what we're putting out, whether it's the films that we make, or Heaps Normal records, or the beer. It's just, you get such a sense of joy myself from working with other people. And a lot of the time it's our team now, working with our team to create something that then other people see personal relevance in. Yeah. And if we can keep doing that and keep having a positive impact on drinking culture, on our local community and friends, then that's enough for me.
Awesome. And you mentioning kind of work-life balance, I guess, what is that for you? How do you find, like, I've talked to lots of different founders and CEOs, and it's very different for each person. Like, what is it for you?
I don't know if I've achieved it yet.
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult. I find it really difficult to stop thinking about work, really. But it's more than work. It's something that I am intensely interested in. But I think something that I've been reflecting on in the last 12 months has been just wanting to get back to some of the other interests and things that I would spend my time on, like cycling, surfing, even some new interests, with my family, like going and kind of doing bushwalks and treks and that sort of thing, and just going out and seeing more art and more music, because that's the source material.
Yes.
I think I've noticed it in myself. I think I've started to feel, at times a little bit creatively kind of dried up.
To go back to the source and bring from the top.
Yeah. So that's, I think back to your question around, what's the perfect work-life balance. I think you've got to answer that for yourself, like individually. But for me, family and friends have been kind of probably neglected a little bit over the last few years, and I made a conscious decision this year to prioritize just investing more of myself in those areas, and not taking them for granted as much, because I think your closest friends and family and people who love you are so forgiving that I think it's easy to take that forgiveness and end up sort of not putting very much energy in, which is, I feel like, what I've been doing for the last few years.
Yeah. I mean, and also, it's been a rough few years, and when you've got your business baby and you're trying to just make sure that you get through to the other side, it is easy to forget those things. I definitely I feel that, and that's where I try and find the balance. So also just within my family of like, maybe I'll have a good balance between work and my kids, but then my wife will lose out. So it's sort of like, how do we make sure that my brain space is kind of being distributed equally? And it's probably never going to be equally in any way, but I guess just making sure that everyone feels that, not being taken for granted. I guess that's
totally
the key thing for me. So what's next for Heaps Normal? What's in the cards?
We're building our venue and brewery and office down in Marrickville.
Yep.
It's been a long time coming.
Around the corner from me, I'm excited.
Yeah. We're really excited as well. It's been a long time coming. It's still a little while off, but we're getting there. We will be going into the UK in a couple of months, launching in the UK, and we're working on some other non-alcoholic drinks as well.
Oh, interesting. Moving outside of beer.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah. We've got some really interesting kind of early tests, and we're really excited to share that with everyone.
Oh, okay. When should we expect that on our shelves?
Next summer.
Okay. That's very exciting. And is there intrepidation around expanding beyond your core range?
Yeah. We definitely don't take for granted, what we've been able to achieve in beer. I think we're really excited to see what's possible. And I think that we're noticing, similar things in other categories, where, there's an opportunity for us to play a role. I think there's a lot of really incredible non-alcoholic drinks on the market now, in Australia and abroad. And and I think that there's just a couple of spots where I think, we feel like Heaps Normal has a role to play. So, we're going to just throw our hat in the ring.
Have a crack.
And and if we're not bringing something significantly different or new, or that people feel like is needed, then we won't do it.
And I guess to wrap up, if you could speak to young Andy, wanting to be Inspector Gadget, what advice would you give him?
Have a crack.
Have a crack. Yeah.
I think just start. It doesn't matter what you want to be, even if it's Inspector Gadget. I think find what the kind of true thing there is, or find like the bit that is actually possible about that, or what the bit that makes you want to be that thing, and just start doing it, because I didn't think I ever felt ready, and it took me much longer than I wish it had of to just start something, and once you start, you may not even go down the path that you think you were going to go down. I certainly didn't on a few occasions, but I always learned something interesting. Sometimes it was even better than what I'd set out to do.
Awesome. Love that. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Andy.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for listening to the Mucky Middle. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed having the conversation. If you did, please hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, and if you feel so inclined, give us a review. It really helps other people discover the show and gives me a little dopamine hit as well. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at nick@papermoose.com.
The Mucky Middle is a Paper Moose production. Music by Caleb Jacobs.